Getting ready for the 2015 ice fishing season. Just gonna show you a few things that I have ready to go here. Alright, first of all, got my rods. I like to keep an assortment. It's nice to have one with a leader. That way if you're fishing for pike or a large fish, then you're set up for that. And then I keep one with some lighter line on it, about an 8-pound test. And it's a bit of a smaller rod. I use that for trout and perch and all your smaller fish. And then I just have a few spares. Then of course the tip-ups. These I use mostly for pike, or you could use them for walleye or burbot too. But simple design and really handy. You just put your lure or pickerel rig or whatever you choose to use on the line, and then put it in the hole. I got it upside down, but just put it in the hole like that, and then hook your flag underneath of it, and when you get a fish it'll turn, pop it up, rings your bell and throws your flag up. This one's missing the flag, but I'll rig something up for this year for that. But yeah, pretty basic, really handy. These are something I've always used. And then moving on, of course, if there's no snow on the ice, it can be real slippery. So I like to keep a set of cleats to put on your boots in case it is fresh, shiny ice. If there's snow on it, I mean, it's not necessary. You don't usually need it. And then I like to keep a gaff for lifting the fish out of the hole. You have to check in your rules of where you live, though, because there is some legalities with using these. They're legal here for lifting the fish out of the hole as long as it's the J-hook design, which those are, so they're allowed. And then you don't want to go too far without a scooper, because it can be hard on the hands when you got to scoop the hole out by hand. So I got a few here. They're kind of old and been well used, but they get the job done. That's all you need. You just keep them in a pail. And then it's nice to have an underwater camera. If you're wanting to, you can hook this up and see what's going on down hole. Kind of nice. Doesn't really work in murky water though. You gotta have pretty clear water to be able to see much on it. And then extra fishing line, always nice to bring. I always change the line on my rods annually, once a year, even if it looks fine. I mean, for the small cost, it's not worth it. It gets rotten and nicked and shitty, and it causes grief. So I just change it. I use an 8-pound test on my smaller rod for little fish or whatever, but if you're going to be fishing northern pike, you want something 10, 12-pound test, and you want to be using a wire leader because their teeth are like razor blades and it just slices right through any kind of fishing line that's not wires. So yeah, and then I just keep 2 different tackle boxes. Got quite an assortment. These I like to use for pike or even burbot. You can catch burbot on these too. They're a wire, they're strong, decent size hook. Just hook onto that and put your bait, I don't know, a schmelt or a minnow or whatever you choose to use, piece of beef heart, anything like that. Put it on there and just hang it a little bit off bottom, and usually works out pretty good. And then I like my smaller jigs for perch, trout, even walleye, anything like that. And then of course I keep nice big lures around for the big old northern pike. Got quite an entanglement there, but it's for another day. As you can see, it's a rubber lure. Got the hook hanging underneath, so you can put bait on this. Sometimes I do, like hang a little bit of beef heart or minnow on there, and then you got your hook up here and hook on here, and pretty effective for northern pike, but sometimes not. It's all about luck. But I got the same idea here in a rainbow trout kind of setup, same thing. And then my frog, it's got the 2 hooks on the top. Not a bad lure either, but of course for your larger fish, northern pike, etc. Then you got all your Len Thompson steel spoons. Len Thompson was a Canadian. I believe he was from Saskatchewan, actually. Saskatchewan, Canada. And he designed the Len Thompson spoon. And probably one of the best yet to this day. Pretty basic metal spoon with a big ugly treble hook on the bottom, but can't seem to beat him. You can hang bait on something like that too, whatever. And then, of course, I like to keep some pickerel rigs. I mean, these are handy. Maybe I'll do another video on how to use a pickerel rig sometime, but pickerel, northern pike, burbot, even trout, you can catch them on those. And then, of course, you want to have a couple knives just in case you catch a fish. You can clean it or whatever you need to do. Cut things. It's nice to have a knife. Extra fishing line, as I mentioned previously. Oh, and a pliers. You want to have a pliers just in case you can't get the hook out of the fish's mouth or to bend over a barb or anything like that. And then I like to keep these, which are for removing the hooks from the fish. You can get right in their mouth and it just really handy. Better than a pliers. Got it at Walmart. Nothing fancy, inexpensive. Yeah, so that's it for tackle. I'll move on, I think. Lots of things to know. Then, of course, you need some sort of an ice auger. I have a gas auger, and my father was nice enough to let me use his hand auger, which I don't usually use, but it's nice to have because when you're dealing with cold weather and mechanical equipment, I mean, you just never know. I've been pretty fortunate. This auger does run really good, and I haven't had any problems with it at all. I bought it used quite a few years ago. It's a Jiffy, I believe it's called. It's got a Thompson engine on it. It always starts. So, and it, of course, is an 8-inch, and the hand auger is a 6-inch. Then I got this. If you're fishing the next day, all you need to do, you don't need to drill a new hole. You just, I got the cover on, I'm not going to take it off, but it's just a sharp, this is also made by Jiffy. It's just a sharp pick to knock your hole out the next day or a few hours later if it's real cold or whatever. Nice to bring. And then, of course, a sled. Extremely handy. Put my auger and all my gear in here, and I can pull it right out onto the ice either by hand or with my quad, as you can see over here. Just hook it right on the back, and I can pull it right out onto the ice with my quad. So I like having that. The only thing I don't have right now is an ice fishing shack, so I have to just fish out on the ice. But I'd like to buy a little pop-up shack if I ever get the chance. And yeah, other than that, that's pretty much concludes my fishing setup for 2015. Thanks for watching, and happy fishing.